Hey, Andrew, how are you doing?
Great to see you, Mads.
Good to see you as well. Okay, so Andrew, we talk about this a lot. Everyone has access to AI right now, but not everybody is getting the same results. So what actually makes the difference in your eye?
It's a relatable problem because these tools advance very quickly. Sometimes week by week, they improve in their capabilities, but the information on how to use them isn't as widespread. And it's not like something like using a spreadsheet or a word processor that hasn't really changed much in the last 20 years. So one of the reasons you get that adoption gap is that it's hard to know, can it solve my problem? And sometimes you might have used something a year ago and it wasn't really good for that, but now it's actually exceptional at that. We saw that with coding. AI was good with certain kinds of coding tasks, but some people were like, yeah, but didn't do this, and they would dismiss it. Now AI is exceptional at coding and it's way more capable. We see this in businesses where companies might say, okay, I need to do certain kinds of business letter writing. And at first, you might get a very generic response and say, this isn't really that great because what I'm trying to do needs to be more specific. It needs to know more about my customer, et cetera. In an earlier system, it wasn't easy to put that into place. Now, with ChatGPT and your ability to use GPTs and create apps, it's a lot easier to give it bodies of knowledge and whatnot and to make it way more personalized to what your task you're trying to do is.
So you even see, which is kind of what you're alluding to, from when the time you were there and what you all developed to now, things have changed just tremendously.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the hard part is keeping up to date with those changes. And sometimes it can just happen very rapidly. And I think that companies will go do discovery process and maybe they spent some effort a year ago to decide, oh, are these tools ready for what we're trying to do? And maybe they weren't. And now they might be, but that's hard because you don't want to have to go through this expensive process every time to figure out if it's what you need.
So when you watch people use AI today, what behavior consistently separates the strong users from, would you say, everybody else?
Strong users are explorers. They're always trying new things. And even going back to what they tried before. I recently put together a collection of my prompts, the things I first started doing as a prompt engineer, going back to 2020 at the start of all of this, and looked at what I was trying back then, things that didn't work. But every time a new model came out, I would try this again, and then sometimes I'd have this eureka moment and say, "Oh, it's good at this now. This is really cool. Now, what else is possible?" So I think first is being an explorer, and one, it's just keeping track of where things are progressing. The second thing is partially, I think, being a good communicator. It's sharing with people what you've observed, what you've seen, and listening to other people and finding out what works. One of the things I like to do is tell people, what is the biggest challenge? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And I will do this with individuals. I've done this with corporations, and I have them bring their challenges to me. And then I can figure out what a good solution is. And that helps me become much better at applying that in new situations.
That's fantastic advice. So, okay, let's talk about this then. A company buys 500 ChatGPT enterprise seats. So
Mhm.
it's like 6 months down the line, you have 40 people actively using it. Not even like power users, but just like actively ish using it. What is happening?
Sometimes the problem is that you buy a tool, but it doesn't mean the tool you know how to use the tool. The tool doesn't always explain how to use it, or you don't know how to use the tool to find out what you need to do. And what we've tried to do at Interdimensional, besides just showing people what we've learned from years of experience and helping people adopt these tools, besides showing them how you can use them, what they're capable of, and how to explore with them, we also try to teach people how to be in a culture of sharing and communicating because it might be you have some power users there that know a lot about how to use them, and the people who are trying to figure out aren't talking to them. And that's a very, very important thing is to create an environment where people are sharing knowledge back and forth, particularly within a company where somebody might solve a particular problem that other people haven't realized you can do this. I saw this early on with expense report accounting and having to file expense reports every quarter was a pain, but I realized I could just shove all of them to GPT-4. I could give it the company documentation, what it was supposed to look like, and output a proper expense report that was extremely well documented. And it took hours out of my day that I had to do, which fine, I discovered that. But the most valuable thing I could do then was to share it with other employees and say, hey, look, I found this thing. And just by me sharing that with 100 other people, literally freed up hundreds of hours of work that could be used for more productive things. I think that's one of the things we forget about is you might discover some little trick that saves you 15 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day. And if you share that with 4 other people, guess what? You're saving an hour a day. And that's one of the things like is super key is to share what you found with other people. And we find in these companies where they buy licenses, we'll see some people are getting really high usage out of them and other people aren't. We'll find out sometimes they're in teams that aren't sharing their knowledge. They're not learning how to use these things. They gave it a shot and then they dismissed it. And they're not aware of what other people are doing.
Mm. Okay, so that leads me to an easy next question. So, do you think sometimes when there's not good adoption off the bat, is that like a leadership issue or a frontline issue?
The problem is that you buy the seat licenses and sometimes, they always come with some degree of training or sometimes, online documentation to help you make use of it. But that's often very, very far behind what the capabilities are. And it's often not a priority for the companies selling the seat licenses. And I think that's the thing you have to think about is it's not just we're going to invest in these enterprise licenses. What time are we going to invest in learning how to use these tools? What are we going to change about our structure? It's not enough to say to everybody, check your inbox, you've now got a key to go use this tool. You have to think about, do we now have a new Slack thread or an email thread? Are we telling our employees every week, here's something cool you could do? Have you tried this? We can have a hackathon and have people share with everybody the best solutions they've come up with for using these tools. And you might see incredible productivity gains just by something as simple as that.
Yeah, you're talking a lot now about like sharing knowledge, right? And I've heard you talk about one of your idols, Benjamin Franklin. Can
Mhm.
you share a little bit about what he used to do, which has inspired a lot of the way you put together the sharing of knowledge in our curriculum?
Benjamin Franklin really understood the value of information. And it's one of the reasons he helped create the public library system. It's one of the reasons he helped create the post office, is he understood it wasn't just enough to have that information sit in a place. And that's key. It's not just the library. He also created the post office as we know it, because he said we need to be able to have information flow between people. The faster it flows, the more reliably it flows, the more information we have, the more knowledge we have, the better world we build. And he started at an early age with the idea of what if I get together with my friends like once a week and we talk about what we have learned inside books, manuscripts, news we've heard, businesses, political affairs, literally have conversations. So the whole purpose is we're going to continuously educate ourselves about how the world is working. I think a lot of people feel that education stops when you leave college, and then other than that, maybe you do some training and that's the end of it. Benjamin Franklin understood that it could be a lifelong thing that you continue on, and you could make it a fun experience too. And I think it's super important in the age of AI. Maybe that was something people thought, well, that made sense in the 18th century. Guess what? It makes sense today as things are rapidly advancing because Philadelphia in the latter part of the 1700s was an exciting period of time and things were moving very, very quickly in that world. And he knew to keep ahead of it, he needed to talk to people. And that's what I feel is true about today.
Mhm. Excellent. Okay, so is there a pattern you've noticed in people who improve the fastest?
I would say exploration, people who just spend an hour a day, a half hour, or maybe a week, whatever, just trying different things certainly is one way to improve. Second is communication. It is literally to get into meetings and calls with other people, share knowledge, follow what's going on, ask people, what have you learned? And you'll find out people are very eager to share this with. You ask them, what have you discovered? What didn't work? What didn't work is often a question we avoid asking, but it can be very helpful. And you find out, oh, that wasn't a good path to do. So I think being an explorer, just trying things on your own, and second is then just sharing with people.
So, Andrew, I think it would be really interesting for you to talk a little bit about why we made the curriculum not a one size fits all. So, we know that different people learn differently. You have people who
Mhm.
are visual, people who like to go into a room and do it by themselves and not have anyone see them do it for the first time. So, why, did you take such pride in developing the curriculum to be able to be applicable to each and every individual as they learn?
I think that it's easy to put something in front of somebody, and if they don't pick it up, to just blame the student. But that's bad. That's our goal is to make sure that everybody who goes through our program becomes a better user of these tools. And so we had to spend a lot of time looking at how different people learn, where people are at their journey, And when you go into a company and you do a presentation for a team, you might have people who have a lot of experience with these tools. People have no experience. Some people have some skepticism. Or people who are overconfident in these tools. That can be another issue. And so we have to take that into account and then create an environment where you feel very comfortable learning. We also have tools that we use, like we have anonymous question asking. So during a session, if you want to know something but you don't want to raise your hand and call attention to yourself, which is very understandable. As much as you can tell people, hey, there are no dumb questions, when you're in a work environment, you might feel differently. And so we take that into account. We try to be very empathetic to people about what it's like to be in that place and have to ask questions. I know this coming from a point of view of somebody who leaped into a fast moving technology startup filled with incredible researchers and super smart people. And I'm asking like basic questions. Wait, what does this mean? What does this do? Whatever. And thankfully, it was a very nurturing environment. And that's what I've tried to create here with Interdimensional, is a place where people feel it's very easy to learn because we're going to adapt to where they are. We're going to help them understand it and make people feel like they should be excited about this and not intimidated.